Hello, everyone, and welcome to Lumio Palooza. Oh my goodness, I am so excited for this session because this session is going to feature one of my very favorite features in Lumio, and I'm super pumped for everyone to learn about all the many different ways to use it. So with that, I'm going to bring out our presenter here. Hey, Cammie, how's it going?
Hello. It is going well.
Super excited to have you here with us. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am from Canada. I'm from Alberta, Canada, which an interesting point is actually the home of Smart Technologies, the parent company of Lumio. And I've been using Smart Technologies for 20 years this year coming up. So that's a long time. And Lumio hasn't been around for all of that, but I do love Lumio. I'm a district instructional coach right now. So I help all my teachers learn about Lumio. Before that, I was a high school social studies and language arts teacher. So I really used lots of Smart Notebook and Lumio once it got going too. So there's a little bit about me.
So we've come to the right person to learn from. I'm super excited to have you here. Thank you for taking the time to teach us all about. Let me present here what feature you're going to be talking to us about. Here's your screen. We are going to be talking about Shout It Out. So with that, I'm going to let our pro here take it away. I'm going to go behind the scenes, and Cammie, it is all yours.
All right. So here we are. So many ways to use Shout It Out. We already talked about who I am. If you want to connect on all the socials, I'm usually Mrs. Kannekens on all of those. But I would love to share some of my ways that I use Lumio, both as a teacher. I also use it actually sometimes with my ed tech students in a pre-service teacher course. And so here is lots of ways to use Shout It Out. So Shout It Out is just one of many tools in the very powerful Lumio suite. So why might we use Shout It Out? We'll talk a little bit about that, give you some of its capabilities. Then we're going to try it out as a student. So you'll have an opportunity to join in and try it out on your own device. And then the last thing, of course, we want you to walk away with the ability to make your own Lumio Shout It Out activity. And so we're going to go through the steps. It's actually quite simple to make your own Shout It Out in Lumio. So that's our agenda for today. Now, if you are finding something that's just that you're loving today about Lumio, maybe take a screenshot here so you know how to enter to win gift cards when you tell about your learning during Lumio Palooza. So you can get in on that. Just want to make sure you know that before the end. Now, when we use Shout It Out, it is a super tool for supporting active learning. So this is the why Shout It Out, first of all. So, in your class, whether you're online or hybrid, you've got that student, those students, maybe there's a couple in your class who always, you wait, you give good wait time, and there's always that kid that wants to give you the answer. They've got an answer for everything. Well, with Shout It Out, that student does get to answer. But we also get an answer from every student, not just the loudest or the one that's the bravest, but Shout It Out gives an opportunity for every student to get their ideas on the board. And then once their ideas are on there, students can see those ideas. We can group them, move them around, manipulate, sort, discuss those contributions. So there's all sorts of ways that we can, do some grouping along a spectrum. Yes, no, all sorts of things. We'll talk about some of those. And then as the teacher, as all of that is happening, it is instant formative feedback. And so I don't have to wait for, a quiz or even an X ticket at the end of class. I don't have to, wait for some papers to come in to mark them. I can see right away where misconceptions might be or where students are in their thinking process. And then I can plan my ongoing lessons given that in real-time formative feedback. Now, in my situation, my school district is a geographically large school district, but we have a lot of really tiny schools. And so what happens is those schools often have to use what we call video conferencing. That's where there's a teacher with maybe a handful of students at school A, and there's another 4 students at school B and another 5 students at school C. Well, none of those schools have enough students to run, let's say, a high school chemistry class, or sometimes even, junior high social studies. And so what they do is they put those students together with that teacher And then we call that video conferencing. It's basically just a version of online and hybrid learning. And so for those situations, Lumio and Shout It Out in particular is super helpful because those students might be 100 kilometers, 100 miles away, but you get to see their work in real time. So if the student's doing a math problem on a whiteboard or a sheet of paper, they can take a picture of it and boom, it's in Shout It Out in no time. And so the teacher and classmates get to take a look at that. So we'll look at that a little bit more as we dive in, but that is a super important way. So when we use Shout It Out, we mentioned that it captures every voice, not just the student who wants to answer every question. There are two basic kinds of responses that we can use in Shout It Out. One is a text shout, and that has a limit of 150 characters. So students, have to be precise. However, we can, we'll see where we can have students submit multiple items if they need to. And then we also have an image Shout It Out, and students can upload photos and they can take pictures. They can even, search on the web, screen capture that, and put it into a Shout It Out so that we can brainstorm and do all sorts of things. Now, when we're doing that, there's also the option of anonymity. Now, the teacher in the back end, the teacher sees everybody. The teacher always sees the names, but teachers on each Shout It Out question can determine whether they want to hide names or make them visible to other learners. And so that really helps every voice shine through. All right, so I'm going to give you a quick peek into what it looks like, some of the things that we can do, and then we're going to practice by being a student, but you'll know when you work as a student, you'll kind of know the things that you're experiencing. So the first thing that we have is, as a teacher, you can decide whether you want random answers or sorted answers. So that randomized, it's just like sticky notes maybe on a good old Jamboard, or, just even paper sticky notes. Students just place them randomly. Now, that's great because from there, you can sort them. You can group them. You can say, do we have any similar features? Maybe we're trying to tease out a theme in a language arts activity, or maybe we're having hypotheses for our science experiments. And we want to say, okay, what are some of the hypotheses? Do we have some groups? Do we have some places where students agree? So we can do search or grouping. Then we also have pre-made categories that we can look. And the first student activity is going to use some of those. So you can have a minimum of 2 categories and a maximum of 4 categories. And you can also give quite a descriptive title for each of those so that when the students get into their device, they can see what they need to put in each of those categories. So once we've decided random or categories, there's a few other settings that we can use. We'll see those today. Teachers can just determine whether we want to do independent work or live in class. In Lumio, you can set your lesson to be asynchronous so that students work through it on their own, or you can even kind of turn that on so that they can do the rest of the lesson. And that would be independent work. So they don't need to wait for you or other students to do that page. But today we're going to experience the live in-class mode. And that's actually the one that I use the most because I want to have that discussion. I want students to see each other's thinking. And certainly, I think it really increases engagement when we have that live in-class mode. Then we can see the 2 types, text and images, and we can have up to 5 text or images per student. So in a single Shout It Out, we have to choose, do I want this text or do I want this image? But in a lesson, you can add several different Shout It Out activities. Some can be text, some can be images. So you've got some variability there. And then like we talked about, teacher always sees the names, but we can turn on or off whether the students see that. So with that, now that we have a little idea of what we're going to see, let's try Shout It Out as a student. So here you go. What you're going to do is if you go to lumioclass.com, you're going to get to the Lumio sign-in page. Now, even if you have your own Lumio account, I recommend today that you just click join as guest. And when you do that, you will enter the code 80088 And so we're going to just give you a moment to do that. 8088. Now I'm going to show you in the back end here what it looks like. So you'll get a set. Actually, I'm going to go live because I want to, you can see us coming in. So we can see here that we already have a couple people coming in. We have Holly, Mish, Tisha, okay, and Kelly. So we've got a couple guests there. Now you can see here, I'm going to click on show class ID so that what'll happen is as maybe you're, finding your phone, or maybe you had to answer the doorbell or something, I'm going to leave that on there so that you can always enter the class afterwards once we get going. Okay, so you can see here the pacing is set to teacher, and we did talk about how it could be student facing, but we're going to set it to teacher. And right here I have that I think some of these are set up so that you'll be able to see the names of the students. We do that on each individual shouted out activity. Okay, I'm going to turn this off. So there you can see at the bottom that class ID is sitting there. We can move that around if it's going to be in the way. I'm going to put that over there on top of the balloons. And now we're going to dive into our first shout it out. So I'm going to explain what you're going to see, and then you won't be able to do anything on your device yet. When I get to the next screen, then I will click basically go live, and we will start to add our answers. So this first one, I've tried to show a couple things. We're going to have 4 different categories. Now, if you're on a mobile device, the categories, you'll see them on the screen, but they kind of are underneath on your phone. So it takes a little while sometimes for people to find out where those categories are if you're on a mobile device. I'll show you on my laptop device so you'll kind of see what it looks like if you are on a different device. So first column, your first name. Second column, let's see if you can type an emoji of your national flag. Now, students are really great at finding emojis and typing those in. Think about just like how you might send an emoji if you're texting. Same thing there. If you're on a laptop, if you can find an emoji, great. If not, that's okay. Just type the country that you're from and your state or province. Third column, a subject that you teach, or if you're not currently in the classroom, a subject that you love. And then for Lumio, what is your usage on a scale of 1? I am brand new. I've just come to Lumio Palooza to learn all about it. Or 5, I'm a pro. I use it all the time. So when we get into our answers here, I'm going to get this going. We'll take a look at how we can sort some of those. So now from the teacher side, you can see that I have shouted out. So now that is open, you should have a little place where you can click open on yours, on your device, and you should get to see the pieces that are going to pop up there. And I'm going to show the teacher screen here, and we can see some of the answers coming in. So we'll just give you a little minute. Oh, I see we got Mish coming in there. All right, so we can see we have Mish and Tisha. They've both done the first category. See, we're getting some answers there. We'll just wait a few more to get some answers so then we can kind of see what it looks like as we sort them. All right. Look at all those answers coming out there. Okay, so we've got a few to start playing with. So one of the things that we can do is if I click on an item, so I'm going to go in that first category, and you can see how I've got them nicely labeled at the top so that when we're looking as a class, we know what we were talking about. We can see here that we have the answers, and when I click on them, they increase in size. So there I can see, I can go through all of those. Now, we could do something here, like let's say we wanted to put these in alphabetical order. We could just, as a way of ordering, we could put those in alphabetical order. Next categories here, let's see. We've got the United States and Great Britain and Canada. So I wanted to maybe group those. We've got 3 different groups. We could kind of pile those up by country as well. Let's see what we have here. We've got literacy, history, math. So again, we could group those. Now for your Lumio scale, look at this. This is super helpful for a presenter. We have a couple 3s and we have a couple 4s, right? So those are all kind of coming in into those categories. as a class, we can sort them, we can talk about them. I can move them to a side once I've discussed each one. We don't have to discuss everyone. Maybe we only discuss some of the columns at that point. And then later, as a student or as a teacher, here's the beautiful part. As a teacher, I have this lesson information saved. So at the end of the lesson, I can come back in here. I can look more in depth at student responses. These responses were really short. But if a student, let's say, was submitting a picture of some math work or a physics formula that they were solving, I would want to take a look at that more carefully, and I can do that later on. So that is a great aspect of Lumio. Well, of Lumio's Shout It Out. Now, one thing that I'm seeing a question in the chat there that asks, can you only do, can't you write? Like they wanted to draw their picture. And that might come up as a good one here. Here's another example of how we might use Shout It Out is an SEL check-in. So some ideas of what we might use, a text response. So choose a word that describes your energy today. And I've seen lots of my teachers, they have a mood board where they try to teach students the words for how they're feeling. And so they're really building emotional literacy there. And so they'll say, okay, here's our mood board. Here's all of our words. Pick a word, describe yourself, describe your energy. Or like we just did, you could also use emojis. Now, I'm going to run this one as another practice for us as a student experience. And your opportunity is to use a piece of paper or a whiteboard or draw an emoji that describes how you're feeling. Or perhaps you might, if you have a picture in your camera roll, maybe we can go ahead and use that. So let's see what happens here. Now for this one, I'm going to start for class. And I have names hidden, right? So this is a little bit more of a personal item. And so you might have an opportunity to do that. So when you click select an image, you can either go from your photo library or you can take a photo. And so that's the options that you have there. Now, if you wanted to go from the web, your best case right now would just be to have students open a new tab, find a photo, an image from the web, download it, save it on their Chromebook, and then upload that for their device. So we've got a couple coming in. There we go. You can see this board is set up to random. And so let's take a look. All right. That is quite the mood that Holly is in. Woo! Tish is just okay. What else do we have there? Any others coming in? Okay, so we have quite the mood there. So I'm going to say Holly is maybe on the, let's say, the less happy is on the right. That meh is in the middle. And let's see if we get any more there. Oh, there's a happy one. Okay, so we'll put that one over there. So we could group students if we wanted to. One of the things you'll notice is that at the top of each student, they have a little bit of washi tape or it's actually not always the tape. Sometimes it's a color, different colors and different symbols, so that if you had 50 students joining your Lumio, you could kind of always see which answers follow which student, because they'll always have that same little connector piece at the top. All right, so that is a really quick way of using photos. This was for an SEL idea, but there are lots of different ways. And we're going to go through some other ways that we can use Lumio as well. So we're going to probably I'll just talk through some of these, just give you a whole bunch of quick ideas, and then we'll get into making our own. So we've talked about some social emotional. We did kind of a get to know you activity. In math, this is one of the ways that my teachers use Lumio Shout It Out the most, is to get students work onto a board. So let's say that students are using whiteboards, or they're doing like a practice question, and it's it's maybe in their notebook. The teacher doesn't want to collect all those notebooks. The teacher thinks that the teacher knows there's research that shows that doing math by hand and writing it out is actually super for our brain. So we don't always want to do it digitally. But the shout it out feature in Lumio allows that math, that handwritten math, to be able to just pop it up into shout it out. And then the teacher can look at that in more depth later on, or perhaps even in the moment. We can also use text responses or emoji responses. I've used emojis to show different fractions. Here's 1/2. Can you use hearts to show an equivalent fraction? So a student might do 2 blue hearts and 2 green hearts, or 3 red hearts and 3 yellow hearts. So we can do all sorts of things. If the fraction is 1/2, text response, what's the decimal? What's the percentage equivalent? Or all different sorts of things. So different levels of math works with the text, and also that photo response is incredible for math, those higher level sciences as well. We'll skip this one just because we've already done a couple. And let's go on and take a look at a science example. So again, so many ways. Here's just one way for science. It's great for hypothesizing or predicting. Imagine that it's lab day and you're about to do, maybe it's a digital simulation, maybe it's a real hands-on lab, and you could get your students into Lumio and you could ask them to hypothesize what will happen to the chemical reaction if we increase the temperature, right? So you've asked students to make a hypothesis. Students will put their answer in, and then you can sort those, right? Here's a group of students thought it would do this, a group of students thought it would do this. And then as the lab progresses, we can even sort them further into this one was proven, this hypothesis was disproven. So another way to use shout it out. Now, when we go into, in a few minutes, get into building our own shout it out, what we'll see is that we can take our existing lessons, the ones that are tried and true. I still have teachers in my district that use Smart Notebook because we've literally been using Smart Notebook in my district for 20 years. And so some of them are holding on to those Smart Notebook files because they're almost going to retire and they just love their Smart Notebook. You can upload Smart Notebook. You can upload PowerPoints, PDFs. You can upload your Google Slides. And then what you can do is in that lesson that you already have built and that you've fine-tuned, you can add interactive pieces like shout it out. So you don't have to make a new thing. You can add it to that great thing that you already have. Here's an English language arts idea for analyzing character. I love to do this little emoji game. So if we've read a novel or a movie or short story, maybe even, it works better with something that has quite a few characters. We play, can you guess the character? So we have students describe a character in 4 or 5 emojis, and then can the class guess? And so we put those on, we create them, and then we have a guessing game. And then another thing that we can even do is you can also have the students create a description or a little text that describes their emojis, because I can see that if one student's symbol is a red circle, I can find their other red circle after we've done the guessing and pair them up just to see what the student was thinking. So we can create answers that pair together again as we sort all different sorts of things. We could find images that show that character's inner strength. We could find the setting. We could do all sorts of different things. We could draw something about the character, about the story. We could draw a plot diagram and say that we wanted to point, or where do these 2 pieces of information or these 2 episodes fit on a plot diagram? Every student could draw that on a piece of paper, on a whiteboard. We could put those up and see everybody's ideas all at once. Remember, a superpower of Shout It Out is that we get to hear what every student is thinking. Okay, so we've played. Now let's create. And we've looked at some of the different possibilities or screens already. So a couple ways to get to Shout It Out. When you go to your Lumio account, so you were in as a student with me, now you're going to want to go into your Lumio account. You can make a new one if you don't already have one, or you can go to Lumio and then log in as a teacher. When you get to your Lumio start page, in the top left-hand corner, you might see this, you will see this new button. And if you click that, you'll get the image or the choices that you have on the right of my screen. Another way that you can add Shout It Out is if you already have an existing file. And again, this could be one that you started in Lumio to create, but it could be something that you've uploaded, Smart Notebook, PDF, PowerPoint, Google Slides. You've uploaded that and you want to add some interactivity and engagement into your existing lesson. You can click, oh, we're going to move that class code. You can click that plus at the bottom and that will add whatever the thing is. Now, we see here a great menu of items. And so we can see that we can add YouTube videos to a page. We can add Desmos calculator. FET has incredible science simulations. We can see we can embed comment from different third parties, such as Book Creator and others. Then the next row, the bottom row, there's actually another row that I didn't have in my screenshot, but these are some of the different things we can do. There are numbers of templates. So there are templates for Venn diagrams and all sorts of other educational, organizational strategies that you could use. Then we have Shout It Out, which is what we're going to click on today. Then you also have Response, which there'll be other Lumio sessions about. Response is like it's basically formative assessment quizzing. You put quiz questions in there. Lumio will do some correcting. You get great data at the end. And then tons of game-based activities, 12 in all. Both of those have some new AI capabilities. Those game-based activities are super fun and super engaging. And again, you can add any of that to an existing document. So you've clicked on Shout It Out at this point. And then on the first page, you will get an opportunity to make random or categorized answers. And we've looked at that. I'm actually going to switch over to my Lumio here. There we go. And Michelle, tell me if we cannot see my screen. So here's new. I think we're good. So here we can see, I'm going to click Shout It Out. And there we get randomized or categories. So you can pick whichever one you'd like. Now, if you pick categories, here you can add specific details. So on the one that we did, first of all, I said first name. All right, so I could say, where do you live? So you can see that we can add descriptions, which are very helpful so the students know what to put in each category. And then if we, oops, that is the categories. Down here, we can choose independent or live, up to 5. Oh, there's more. Ooh, let's see. Huh. We would not probably want 15 per student. I didn't know that it went that high now. So you can add more contributions. You probably want to limit that just so that the board doesn't get super cluttery. And then we can see where we can show or hide those students. Then you're going to go to next. We should also put a title on here. Let's meet each other. We want to have a title, just like we don't want to have all those untitled Google Docs in our drives. Then you can select a theme. So there's the classic theme, which is basically the one that I generally used on that first one, that background, that kind of gray background. And then we can also use a custom one. And you can see here, I can edit the theme. I can have a picture. I can upload from my device. There's that gray default. No image. All right. So if I click on add an image, I can also search online. Let's just say blue background. I've got some web images, but that's okay. So we're just going to, oh, there's my computer. We'll just back out of here. But you can see that's where you can get your images. I'm going to just click, oops, the X there. And then I'm going to say finish. And then because I only made a single shouted out activity, that's going to be added to my drive as just a single slide file. There it is. Meet your classmates, we'll call this. And there it is. So you can see at the top, if I wanted to edit that activity, I get that all my edit capabilities back up. If you click that little play button, it gives you a little video of how to create a shout it out. I'll finish that off so we can easily edit. And then again, if I wanted to make more, I could add another shout it out, or I could add all of these different activities, including graphic organizers, including manipulatives and labs, all sorts of things there. Okay, so let's go back to our slide deck. All right, so we fine-tuned the settings. We went through all of that. That is actually it for creating a Lumio slide deck. In the YouTube chat today, if you would like to tell us what you are going to try, what subject, what's your question, we'd love to see what you are creating. So we'll just give you a minute here to either click new in the top left or open an existing Lumio, click the plus at the bottom, choose shout it out, and then basically you just click through those prompts, answer them, and boom, you have a shout it out activity.
Some good ideas I've seen in the past are which one doesn't belong. You can do that for math with different math rules. I actually created one that's in the Lumio library that's like seasonal. So I had one that was like apple cider donuts, apple cider. What else did I have in there? Apple pie. And then there was a fourth one that had nothing to do with apples, but like one of them was a drink and the rest of them weren't. One of them didn't have apples. The other ones didn't. Or you could do, I was in another Lumio Palooza session for math and she had, 3 of them were even numbers. One of them was odd. There was one that was 3 digits. The others were 2. I've seen even like primary teachers, everyone's like, oh, how do I do this with kindergartners? You can put up a picture as a background of a fox and have students identify that first letter sound, the last letter sound. There's so many different ways that you can do it. It's a great check-in. I love doing it beginning of my presentations just to do a quick little, like if we're going to talk about AI, I might ask a question of, hey, how are you feeling about AI in the classroom? Different things like that. There's so many different ways to use it.
Right. And then we can sort them. We can do all sorts of things. Yes. I also love the picture part for our littles as well, right? They can draw a picture. Students in kinder, grade 1, grade 2, if you teach them how to take a picture on their screen or how to use if they're on a Chromebook, hold that whiteboard up in front and take a picture by clicking on the spacebar, students can get really good at that. And so even if we're using it with our littles, there's all sorts of ways that we can do that.
We had one of our ambassadors, and you can find this on our YouTube channel as well. Her name is Devin Caldwell, and she taught kindergarten up in Manitoba. And she had a webinar all about project-based learning. So her students aren't doing really anything in that moment per se with Lumio. They're building a structure. They're maybe doing a scavenger hunt. They're doing some kind of project. And then to share everything out, so it's not chaos, everyone's running around the room looking at each other's projects. They have iPads. So she's got cute little pictures of them walking around with their iPads, doing almost like a gallery walk, taking a picture of their project that they worked on. And then she's got this board of everyone's projects that they can review together. The kindergartners are taking turns coming up in front of everyone. So there are so many different ways that you can use the shout it out.
Well, and even, given that if you don't have all your littles with devices, you can even do this as a teacher where you create the shout it out, you open it, you run it, and then you have the iPad signed in and students take that iPad and we can add a lot of responses on a single account. The students take the iPad, take a picture of their project or their, let's say they were doing a math equation with manipulatives. They take a picture and as long as their name is on the whiteboard or wherever, then the teacher can see or the class can see the student's work and the picture. But given the teacher's login, as the teacher's logged in as the guest or the student, all the students can actually use that same login to put their information up, and then the teacher just highlights each one and goes through. So we don't even need students all logged into Lumio to use Shout It Out.
Absolutely.
All right. So we've talked about lots of management tips, lots of great ideas. A couple things that we haven't mentioned. We talked about how powerful it is to toggle off and on names. If a student happens to add an answer that is inappropriate, or maybe you're trying to get rid of duplicate answers, there's a garbage bin, a trash bin in the top left. And as the teacher, you can just drag that up and poof, that answer is no longer available. So that is a nice feature. And then again, we can set the limit of how many responses each can have, but also if we want to have it as a more of a teacher single device or single stations, or maybe you have 2 or 3 computer stations around the room and students, are assigned to one of those to add their information. We can see that that's a great way to get a low-tech way of using Lumio as well, but it captures the learning, because what teacher wants to take home, a bunch of manipulative sets, or, it's great for those manipulative things when the manipulatives get all cleaned up and go back in the bin. But the teacher didn't have time to go around and check all of the learning in detail. Capturing it in Lumio can be a really positive way to do that. Did you want to kind of go through the last slides with the resources on all those pieces?
I sure can, Cammie. Thank you so much. So just kind of starting on the right side of the screen, in case you didn't know, I am our learning and community designer here at Lumio. And one of the things that I'm working on this summer is actually revamping our Getting Started with Lumio course in the Academy. If you didn't know about our Academy yet, we've got a variety of courses on there. And one of them is a Lumio Getting Started course, which hopefully by the end of summer, I'll have nice and done for you, fully refreshing that course. And that'll be a really good one to check out. If you've got other things you're interested in, go ahead and take a look in the Academy. That is going to be a separate account that you'll make, but super easy and free. And you do get a certificate and credit hours at the end of that. We also have a variety of webinars that we'll plan throughout the school year. So if you click on that webinars button there, you'll see everything that's upcoming. You can also go into Google. If you can't access this link right now, you can just search Go Lumio Webinars and that should come up for you. Everything upcoming will be on the top of the page. All of our previously recorded webinars will be on the bottom. A really good place to start, though, also is our Lumio YouTube channel. And those are a variety of 1 to 3 minute video clips, really broken down by individual features. So there's a quick video on Shout It Out, on an individual handout, using the activity dashboard, how to share a lesson with your students, how to review things. All of those are on there, also currently being redone, because if you haven't noticed, our delivery screen looks just a little bit different. The toolbar got a little bit of an update. It's a little bit more screen reader compatible now, user-friendly. And so I'm currently updating all those videos so that it looks exactly the way that Lumio now looks. And the next thing I'm going to tell you about, if you go to that next slide for me, Cammie, is our global community. If you have enjoyed Lumio Palooza, these sessions have all been led by our incredible Lumio ambassadors who are worldwide. This year, we had folks presenting from all over the world. Cammie's in Canada. We had lots of folks in the US. We had folks in the UAE. We had folks in Botswana. We had folks in France. Oh my God, Poland, and so many different places. And these are all of our ambassadors. And we have a special community that you can apply to join with that QR code on the screen. And that's where you can go to connect, ask questions, gain ideas. It's also where we'll pop in from the Lumio team and let you know when something new is coming. And our Lumio team has been up very, very late, busy working with all new features. And so that's where you want to be to make sure you're always in the know of what's going on. All right. And something that we always love for you to do is share with us on socials what you're learning about Lumio. We do have a Facebook group as well. That's called Lumio Educators. You can request to join. I'm the one that's the admin behind that group, so I'll let you in there. And that's a good place to go. Take a quick screenshot of something that you learned and you liked. Maybe take a quick note, jot down something down, and let us know on social media. You can use Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, X. Use hashtag LumioPalooza 2026. And make sure you also tag us at Lumio Social. Or if you're just in the Facebook group Lumio Educators, you can just make a post in there. Let us know what you liked. Give us some feedback. And let us know what you're excited to try this school year. And the very last one here is Let's give some feedback here to both Cammie and to the Lumio team. And all we need to do to get that certificate, and I'm going to drop that in the chat as well in just a moment, is all you need to do, submit that survey. And at the end, you will get your certificate for attending this session today, and also the credit hour that you're able to log. Give me one moment, and I'm going to drop that right in the chat for you. Survey for Cammie. Here it is. Copy, and I'm going to drop that here in the chat. That is there for you. And with that, thank you so much for participating in today's webinar. Cammie, thank you so much for your time. You didn't even know this when you signed up for it, but Shout It Out really is one of my secret favorite hidden gems that's in Lumio. You did a fantastic job, and we're so lucky to have you. So Cammie, thank you so much.
All right. It was great to be here. Like I said, Lumio is such a great solution for us in our district where we have so much hybrid and online and distance learning. It's great for lots of things, but that's been a great use case for us as well.
Perfect. Thanks, everyone. See you next time.